Welcome everyone, today we're talking about deck building in Pokemon Pocket. The game will officially release on October 30, but if you live in New Zealand, just like me, you can already try it out. You get like roughly 50 packs right at the start. Once you open those packs, the progress is gonna slow down dramatically and you're only gonna be able to open like 2 or 3 packs each day. Because of that, it's really difficult to actually manage to put together a decent deck right at the beginning. In order to help you guys out and alleviate this issue, I decided to publish this guide on how to build reliable and decent decks no matter of where your collection is at. And to give you guys an idea of which deck you can build, I've already built up over 20 different deck lists with all the cards available in Genetic Apex, which is the first official expansion for this game. Right now we only have access to those cards plus a handful of cards that come from the promo edition, which is like a separate mini expansion that you don't really have to open up. You will be able to purchase those cards directly from the shop using a different kind of currency. They just give them to you for free. I thought that it would be best to just get them out of the way so that people don't comment all the time, why do you keep playing the same cards over and over? And I'm actually gonna explain you guys why these cards are so played and how you can deck build around them being so popular in order to metagame and counter the format. Let's get right into it, starting strong with Professor Research. This card is essentially Pot of Greed. You play one card, it draws you 2 cards. Keep in mind, in this game we just play with decks of 20 cards. That means you're drawing 10% of your deck. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, that's a card that you're gonna see in every deck. Let's go on with its best friend, the Pokeball, which is actually an item card. So you can play as many of them as you want during each turn. This card reads really simply: fetch basic Pokemon out of your deck. Why is this so ubiquitous? No matter which deck you're building, you can just get rid of your 2 most underwhelming Pokemon and just play 2 Pokeballs. That way you can just draw your stronger Pokemons more often. It's as simple as that. So let's get those obvious choices out of the way. And lastly, we have Sabrina, which is another trainer card. And this gives you the ability to swap your opponent's active Pokemon with one of those in their bench. Keep in mind, they get to pick which one they wanna bring out. That doesn't necessarily matter. Like, this card is so incredibly strong. In most situations, your opponent is gonna have their stronger Pokemon in front. Let's say they have all their energy on their frontline Pokemon, you can just force them to swap it with something in their bench that doesn't have any energy at all, and then they're forced to just keep investing into that new Pokemon that may not even be able to attack or retreat. That's why in the various decks that I've built, I've kept that in consideration, and you're not gonna see too many Pokemon that requires high amount of energy in order to retreat. Because otherwise, Sabrina will just completely demolish you. So since these cards are so popular and you're gonna see them so often, how do you play around them? Well, you can start with deck building. There are some other item cards that you can put in your deck to counter the card we just mentioned. And those are X-Speed and a more controversial one, Red Card. X-Speed, it's simply amazing. I love this card. It's not only good proactively. Let's say you just wanna switch up your Pokemon to surprise them with a sneak attack that they were not expecting. This facilitates that because it makes it really cheap for you to just switch your active Pokemon with your bench. But also it can help you recover when your opponent decides to Sabrina you. Because if they can't kill whatever you bring out right away, then the X-Speed can help you just re-establish your previous board state at a really cheap price. Not to mention that they can stack onto each other. Let's say your Pokemon has a 2-cost retreat, you can just play double X-Speed and just bring it back for free. So I try to sneak it in every single deck if I can. And lastly, Red Card. This card is really tricky. Some people love it, some people hate it. Personally, I feel like the card is in a really good spot in the meta right at this very moment. In the future this might change, but right now you're seeing a lot of stage 2 decks. What happens is that these decks can usually brick if they don't draw their evolution in the right order. In those cases, they're gonna get stuck with like 5 or 6 cards in their hand, at which point red card becomes just amazing. Although I do see people jamming this card all the time when their opponents just have 4 cards. To be honest, that's just a waste. If you really think about it, you're also spending 1 card, which is the red card. So you just ended up in card parity, and for what? Just to shuffle their hand? Chances are that the cards left in their hand are gonna be their weakest cards, because they've already played the better ones, so they can easily just draw into a better hand. If you don't wanna be patient, then it's probably better if you just cut it and run a potion instead, or whatever you want. That being said, I find the card to be extremely weak against the Pikachu deck. Super aggressive, you just swarm the board and you wanna fill your bench all the time so that your Pikachu can deal max damage. And if you experience that your deck has a really poor matchup against Pikachu, you could consider just cutting this card altogether. Although, as a one-off, I find it to be really useful in most decks. I wouldn't really suggest you playing it as a 2-off, because the card does have a lot of diminishing return, because your opponents first of all can play around it by holding their professor, which is something that I don't see very often. People just don't play around it, they just fire their professor and pass with 6 cards in hand, and then you just slam the red card, they lose 3 cards, and most of the time they just lose the game on the spot. And that's it. If you liked it, don't forget to drop the like and maybe even subscribe, and stay tuned for those 20+ deck lists that are coming out soon. See ya!